Never said it. Didn't see anything.
Oh, Linda's not.
No, she won't be here the rest of the week.
So 1, 2, 3, 4. Sonya's 5. Linda's 6. And Camille. And that was the 7th. I was reaching for the 7th one. I couldn't.
Red marker is absent.
I'm sorry.
Red marker is absent.
Yeah. No, you say she's absent.
Oh, that's a good idea. I don't know how to do that. Are you ready to go there, technology wise?
We're streaming live on YouTube and we're recording.
Okay,
I don't have a minute up there.
that's okay, we got a minute.
Yeah, a second.
Well, that clock was late.
When I go to fisherman's meeting, we start anywhere from 15 minutes to half an hour late.
I hate that late. 6 o'clock, I'm gonna call the selectmen's meeting to order. Ask if there's any adjustments to the agenda.
I have one I'd like to add at the end to talk about the applications for the clerk job briefly.
Okay, you're gonna have to remind us because by the time we get there, I will totally forget that.
I may too, but I'll do my best.
And if we have time, we adjusted the agenda at our regular meeting the other night to discuss about asking DOT to look into putting a reduced speed zone where we had that bad bicycle accident on the corner where they put the chevrons up. And we forgot to do that. I'd like to see if there's support from the board to send them a letter asking them to evaluate that situation. We adjust that as well. I'm thinking it'll be brief. Yeah. Public comment for items not on the agenda. Seeing none, do we have minutes?
No,
Okay.
I don't.
Good. Right, for the select board.
No,
Right, okay. So guess what I'll do is turn it over to you at that point to
Okay.
budget committee.
Budget committee 6:01, and did everyone read the minutes? I got minutes. And just so the rest of the budget committee knows, Linda's out for the rest of the week, and is Camille on Zoom? Okay, hopefully she joins. I don't know what her schedule is. But any amendments to the minutes that,
No, I just didn't make a motion to approve the minutes.
Do you want to do the motion first? I do have amendments.
Okay, well, we need a second and then we'll go and do the amendments.
I'll second.
Okay, so, all right, discussion for minutes. Go ahead, Sandra.
They're just little things. One is page 1, third paragraph, where you say John Spear explained the budget is higher due to, I would just add materials after labor.
1 second.
There's a list of reasons why prices went up, and materials is a big one.
Hold on 1 second. I just want to make sure Kate has it before we move on to the
Yeah,
next.
sorry, I was just saving
She-
tonight's minutes and then gonna go back to you. So, John Spear, okay, so fuel, electricity, labor,
Material.
materials, and solid waste.
And my other really small one is that Terry spells her name with no E on the end.
Sorry, Terry.
Oh.
I'll find her next time.
Anything else, Sandra?
That's it.
Okay. Does anyone else have any amendments to the minutes? So, Bob, you want to do your motion as amended for the minutes?
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, great. Motion has been made and seconded to approve the minutes as amended. Any further discussion on that? All in favor? Sandra? Yes? Okay.
Yes.
Motion passes. There, I did zero. And thank you for doing a good job on the minutes. Want us to, John, to go ahead and just start on town roads?
Well, did you want to do a little update since we passed up some Harry passed up some documents?
That would be splendid.
Terry, can you walk
And
us?
Sandra, I'm gonna keep a copy for you. There's some paperwork that's new, and I'll drop it off to you.
Thank you.
Passed up two sheets.
Yes.
One-
One is the summary that's updated, well, probably should do the tax levy limit first since it falls into the next one.
Okay. So this is a new sheet that no one's seen before, correct?
Right, well, I sent it to you guys exactly.
Okay.
John and I met yesterday and really dug down deep into some historical numbers and did a little adjustments to the tax levy limit worksheet and came up with a new tax levy limit of 691,812. So then we put that on the summary sheet. Not the summary sheet, the funding sheet, which I put in my books and I can find. And Jeff added some surplus figures, so I printed that sheet out for everybody to see. It was standard.
And I want to add that Jeff's numbers from surplus were only from the departments that we did on Thursday night.
Correct.
Yeah, those 691, this says 656, or I'm not looking at the, right.
Did you get the new one? No, 656.
So that's 656, 671.
What'd
That's
you
the
say,
old
last
one.
year? You have the old one.
That's last year's, but we don't have the update.
I do. Mine says 691.
Well, the one that she sent me this afternoon.
Well, here's the
is
656 as well.
The tax levy limit worksheet.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Oh, that's last year's.
Are you,
The 656 is last year's.
right? Are you guys on the back? You gotta turn, you gotta go on the back.
There is no back.
Oh, there's no back. That's a problem.
That's what I thought we should go over. this. The 656 is last year's one,
Well, then we'll just put that over here.
but on the back of that
On the
sheet,
back.
Well, I can make copies of the back very easily.
If you
It's a blank slate.
if you just run it.
That's the trouble with double-sided paper. You're right back to the back side.
I always follow it until I got lost.
Just run it.
It has tomorrow's date on it.
It was supposed to be on the back.
No,
It's-
it
it's
says right
two-sided.
on last year's levy.
I'm looking at 4-5.
Right, but if you read the line, it says last year's levy. That's sort of the starting point.
But if you turn it over,
Is
It's
this supposed
fine.
to be a back? It's
it's two-sided, yeah.
No. This one,
Not that one, I don't know.
Okay.
The correct one's two-sided.
When Terry said we spent a little time there, it was like 3.5 hours. Oh.
Just flew right by, didn't
She
it?
came in on a Sunday
ooh,
and spent 3.5 hours with her and I working on some of this stuff.
I'll tell you, the number of people that she has to contact to get quotes for this, that, and the other thing is just necessary and how tedious and time consuming.
Especially when I get back to you.
What?
Especially when I get back to you.
Right.
I know, too. See, you guys are on the ball. Can't get anything by you. You two want to sign it? Yeah. Thank you. You guys see page 2?
Yeah. I thought,
Makes a difference, huh?
691.
There. Now, does it make sense?
The numbers do.
Okay. I'll pass it back.
so are you done, Terry, with your presentation?
I think so.
So can I ask a question?
Of course.
So the first sheet that we got in our book said we were over the limit by 203,479.
We
That-
had 204.
They didn't get that one. Okay.
Huh?
That's the very first one that,
This one was in the budget book.
right, they didn't get it.
Ours is different. Our first one was different from their first one because it was before we put in the ACO's stipend, changed the ACO's.
So let me start over. So we had roughly $203,000 over the budget, right?
Roughly, yes.
The budget limit, the
Yes.
first sheet. It is now reflecting in a draft form, I know it's fluid, 70,000.
Yes.
And that results from, correct me if I'm wrong, cutting the 28,000 out of the fire department budget and adding a couple $100,
Mhm.
reducing the amount by Jeff's plugged in surplus of 71,000 and the change in the levy limit itself.
Yes.
Those are the 4 factors that get it down. Okay,
Yep.
I'm good.
And just to talk a little bit about the surplus numbers I put in there. Except for the 10,000 into reserve. That 10,000 is going to the emergency reserve, which in my understanding, that's a one-time cost. We're gonna build the reserve back up to where it was, so it's not a continuing budget item. So I justify taking it from surplus. All the rest of them that are in here in red as sources for each of the departments came from comparing what they had previously budgeted and were taxed. The taxpayers gave us money to do a certain thing. It didn't get done last year. We didn't spend money on it. So that money just goes into surplus. And now we are taxing again for the exact same thing. So anything that was like that is where I came up with the surplus on that. So it eliminates us double taxing the taxpayers for the same thing just because we didn't do it.
So while we're talking about surplus or unassigned, undesignated fund balance, whatever you want to call it. Terry and I spent a lot of time on that yesterday too. And I think why it's still a very fluid number, we did make a forecast because we're not going to have the surplus number from the auditor that we have in years past. But we are coming up with a projection at this point that our surplus is going to increase from about 627,000 where it was at the end of December, at the end of December 2020 to about 734,000. That's a combination of revenues in excess of budget and expenditures under budget, plus the amount of overlay and the lack of abatements that we really haven't issued many tax abatements this year. There is one big hole in that. Our homestead reimbursement, actually, what we've collected this year was about 50,000 less than we had not budgeted, but what was calculated at the time of commitment on the commitment sheet, and that number should come out almost to the penny. So I have a call in the Department of Revenue Service. I didn't hear back from them. I called them today, couldn't call them yesterday, of course, trying to figure out what's going on. So if anything, if they, in the unlikely, if there is a mistake there, it should benefit us, not hurt us. So I just wanted to let people know we spent a lot of time on that. And we made, we still got 3 months to go, so we had to make a lot of assumptions. So they're not, in some cases they're guesstimates. And but I think we're gonna have at least 734,000. Which is good news.
John?
Yes.
How does that compare to previous years?
Well, we had, at the end of last year, we had 627,000. I didn't,
But is that with the 18-month budget or?
no, we only had one 18-month budget, so, I mean, you could argue that the 18-month budget, I guess, did help it, because we collected excise tax, for example, over 18 months, as opposed to 12 months. So if we were $3,000 or $6,000 ahead every month, then we had 6 more months of that, you know what I mean? So, yeah,
3 years ago, though, we were over 700. We were mid. between
Okay,
7
so this is,
And that was a normal year. I mean,
Yeah.
so this is similar.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
That's-
yeah, and there's always an argument, which we probably don't want to get into tonight, about what is a appropriate amount of undesignated fund balance to have on hand. And there are as many opinions as there are dollar ranges between.
And I always bring up your 3 scenarios that you gave us. Jeff and I disagree on those.
What three scenarios?
The one where you take 10%, one that's 15, or the 3 highest months of payment.
Well, and the charts that I've been providing.
Should know.
Well, the charts I've been providing for the last several years has all of those calculations and gives you the line on it. Bottom line is, I'm comfortable with going down to 500,000 for surplus. That's me personally. That's not necessarily the other 2 select board members or even some.
yeah. Some of us like 12% of commitment.
Right, which is a little bit more than 5,000,
Right.
but not much more.
But I want to also add, like, 3 years ago, that was probably our highest amount, when we were over 700,000, to answer your question. And we took a lot out because they took out of surplus. And but we've been building up surplus because a decade ago, we didn't even have 200,000 in surplus.
Okay, well, it's,
So now we had to build it up, and now we can use it to offset what we need to do, which is really what we want to do.
And
But we hadn't been this will be the second time really being at over 700,000
right.
in this decade.
And for the using surplus to decrease the taxes, there's 2 opportunities to do that. And one is when we do it in the budget like we're doing right now. Those numbers I put in there, which are common sense, we should pull it from surplus because it makes sense. And it comes right off the budget and it goes into the calculation for the budget at the town meeting. The town votes on. There is a second bite at the apple, but that's for the select board to do. When they set the mill rate, they have an opportunity then to reevaluate the surplus and pull extra from it just to decrease the mill rate. But that's based on not just our funding, but also the town or the school budget and the county budget.
and at that point, you'll truly know what the surplus is.
We should show,
Yes.
Pretty close.
Yeah. But I think in years past it was more important because we didn't know what the school budget was gonna be. Right. And at time of town meeting, now we should, so there should be less there. But Walter, you guys?
I have 2 questions. On the tax levy sheet, the growth in valuation, is that the official number as of April 1st, or do we still
That's
have,
the number I got from Jay.
so they're up to date? Or-
That's the number I got. from
Yeah,
Jay.
okay.
That's,
But that's subject to change.
yeah, okay, that's all I was trying to point out.
He could update.
I could ask Kevin.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's not that important. Can I ask that you have the meeting with Rob to set the levy limit in the evening again, so that more people can participate if they so desire? And I would encourage you guys to attend that meeting so you see the process.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
I'm fine with that, but as long as I remember.
I'll make sure Terry remembers.
Terry will
remember.
remember.
I wrote it down.
Okay, so I think that's sort of the 20,000-foot view at this moment. Everything's subject to change. Hopefully, the state will call back and say, gee, we made a $50,000 mistake. We owe you 50 grand. That would be very nice. Or at least we'll get some sort of explanation. And of course, the amount of surplus, the closer we get to the end of the year, the more finally that can be calculated. We were fairly conservative, I think, Terry, on
I
like
think so.
ambulance billing and stuff like that. So I think that number, if anything, will grow. So, okay. I think it's your meeting.
Okay,
Is
All
it,
right.
am I right?
yep. Town roads, that's Department 610 on page 28. Who is presenting? John?
The uncompensated road commission.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I am, if I can find it. So.
Page 28.
It's close. Okay. As they said, it was gonna be noisy. Okay, understanding that Jerry, who was our road commissioner for 41 years, resigned kind of unexpectedly January 1st. I've sort of stepped in and tried to pick this up on a volunteer basis, so please bear with me. It's new to me, but I have done it before in other towns where I was a town manager and served as a road commissioner. So, but understanding that I'm kind of just stepping in here, bear with me. And we also got a little complexity because of this road project going on and the fact that that's going to probably happen either before the end of the fiscal year or after the end of the fiscal year. And you'll understand more about that when we get there. But I'm just going to walk down for now. Even though I'm currently uncompensated, I don't anticipate doing this job long. So I have included the road commission stipend, which I put the COLA to, or Terry did. I have $500 in wages. That's something new. That's just if I need a little assistance from either Ralph, who does maintenance work, or perhaps Chet or something, put up some signs or something like that. Given that I'm 70 years old, I would like to have a little help with that kind of stuff.
Can I ask a question? Do you think
Sure.
you're gonna get a road commissioner for that amount of money? Or do you have people that have been mentoring and are in the line?
No, I think we need to, as a board, and I don't want to speak for the other two, but I think we as a board need to have a discussion how we're going to approach the road commissioner, whether we're going to try to get someone who actually is the road commissioner, but also does contractual work and bills to town, which is kind of the old model, or we're just going to get someone who is a road commissioner and kind of supervise those things. And so I don't know the answer to that question. And we haven't had that discussion yet. Again, Jerry just resigned abruptly just before the end of the year. So this is going to look a little different than normally in past years. The past years kind of reflected an ongoing trend, and I've actually tried to figure out what we're going to do. I'm planning to do. I have $14,000 budgeted to install 4 culverts. That may sound like a lot, but when you consider that 2 of these are on the Island Road and one's on Westbrook, where you need flaggers, signage, and can't close the road, although we might be able to close Westbrook, but certainly can't close Island. So that's 4 at $3,500 each. Ditching and berm removal, that's a number I threw in there. We could spend $40,000 on that, easy. If you, everywhere you go around this town, there's berms between the road and the ditches, which are ruining our roads. The water can't get off the road. haven't been removed in years. We did we did some of that on Island Road this year. People noticed, but it's everywhere, it's all over our roads. At $14,000 for some bushing and limbing. Another thing we really need to do, this is in particular for Hayden Point, some on Westbrook Street and some on Island Road. It's not a deep cut, kind of like a 10 feet back, really clear it. Walter tells me they got an estimate from Dennis Tree Service, 3 years ago to do a deep back on Westbrook, and it was over 40,000. Yeah. This is just kind of trim here and there, so we can, if we get a bad storm or something, it doesn't way down into the road, block the roads. Patching, roadside mowing, sweeping, striping, that is for 3 roads, Island Road, Westbrook, and Waterman's Beach, which are the only 3 roads we stripe. And then loam and seed would go along with the berm and ditching removal. A lot of times if you do that in areas where there's a fairly steep ditch or something, you need the loam and seed to avoid erosion. I'm not sure what the advertisement's for. You know, Tara?
They always used to put an ad in the paper to say when the roads are closed, or something to do
For
with
the
winter.
winter parking,
Yeah.
yeah, we haven't done that in a while, have we? I don't feel the need to do that, but.
Or is it for advertising for a road commissioner?
Well, that could, yeah. Insurance ties in, Terry can answer that, but that's pretty straightforward. On the supplies, I have budgeted for 3 20-foot culverts. We have one on hand, they're 18-inch culverts. And, actually, that might be 5. We need 2, because they come 20 feet long. You usually need a little more than 20 feet, like to get across the road, like 26 or something, and you can cut them and patch them. Oh, I'm sorry, that was the signs, it's the culverts. Maybe they're, I can't remember what they are, look at my notes, I think that's, I think it's 3 of them, actually. $500 miscellaneous, that's just sort of tools or something. And here comes the biggies.
Can I just go back? You don't
Sure.
need cold patch when you patch the holes in Westbrook that happen every month?
Well, we're doing that now under the contracted services. We're not buying patch
Okay,
and letting it sit real hard. Throwing it out.
okay,
Jerry used to buy it, keep it at his house, and when he was really active, he'd use it. But in the last few years, that model hasn't worked very well. It's just
Okay.
kind of sat there, not been used. And we're also trying to do, I don't know if you saw where there's a move to try to do, if we do patching, you've seen it on the Island Road where they did some hot patching. Those really, they ground it out, did strip, and that really stood up well over the winter. I don't know if you noticed.
Oh, yeah,
More expensive. But,
there's some bad ones.
yeah. So,
because it seemed to me make more sense if you put a square around the hole.
does, it
Dug
does.
it out and cleaned it,
Right.
because that's why Westbrook, the hole continues to come back.
I think it's more than that. I know
But-
it's because the roads.
But it's the same place.
But the problem with that is there's mobilization costs associated with that. You know, you just don't, it's easy to take a shovel and a wheelbarrow and a pickup truck and put some coal patches. If you're gonna bring a grinder down, there's a cost to do that, whether you're doing 2 feet or 600 feet.
Right.
And it's the same cost, so. But anyways, okay, so moving ahead, so the road improvement and paving, 2 things in this item. One is to work with the state to tee up the intersection at the south end of Waterman's Beach Road. The state will do the construction work and the sign package. This is where that bad corner is, where we've had several accidents. We almost had fatalities there just a couple of weeks ago. One got hit on a bicycle. I don't know if you guys heard about that. It wasn't in the paper. She got
But
airlifted.
it's where there's been a fatality before.
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
that's a
this
bad
was,
spot.
It is.
this was close to
The
it.
south end of Waterman's Beach Road.
Just
It
before you
comes
go
up
down
on
there.
73.
Oh, right.
They just put some chevrons after begging. The irony was the chevron went up 2 days after she got hit. And that wasn't the reason, because they actually had put the dig safe permits in before she got hit. So, I mean, they were planning to do it. I don't know whether that would have made a difference, but she's had 4 surgeries. She was air flooded to poison. I mean, she
She was on a bicycle.
was on a bicycle.
There's no shoulder, so.
Car came around 50 miles an hour, not from there, and went into the left-hand lane and actually hit the brakes. So it didn't hit her, like, as I understand, I got the police report at 50 miles an hour, but hit her.
How do you take that corner at 50 miles an hour?
I don't know.
Oh, well.
That's why I just asked to adjust the agenda tonight to ask you if we could put a reduced speed zone right there. But I think the chevrons might help.
Well, it is 40,
Right.
supposedly.
But, I mean,
No,
there's
it
been
is.
lots of near fatalities. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, Doris Fargo was hit there years ago, and you could see where 2 or 3 cars gone right out through Berta's lawn there.
In either direction. So,
So anyways, so the state will do the reconstruction, remove the old asphalt where it lies up. If we will agree to pave it and loam and seed it. So that's a piece of that. And then the other piece, which is more expensive, is more, you just mentioned the potholes that keep coming back on
Yes.
Westbrook. I've had someone look at that and they really feel the solution is to reclaim about 7,500 square yards in 2 locations there. Which basically means digging it up, recompacting it, putting it back down, putting a 2-inch base down, and then an inch overlay. The feeling is if we just pave it with an overlay, we're just throwing our money over there. But that's $61,000.
61, not 60.
Excuse me, that's, 61 to do the reclaim, and then. Lost my spot. Page 20.
29.
Yeah, I think the portion of our T on Waterman's is like $8 grand or something, and then there's 64 for the reclaim and like 61 for the reclaim and like 24 for the finished paving over that. So that's the 89.7.
Okay.
I don't have the exact numbers right. I got them in my computer here, but. And then paving in general, I budgeted 60 grand for Village Road, which is getting really in tough shape, and Stump Dump Road out here, which is really starting to get in tough shape. They're at 30 grand each. I have a total, I went and rode around with this guy from Hager, as Walt was saying, getting budget estimates and stuff, and the total package I could get is like $467,000. And that's when prices were where they were 4 months ago, so. But that's what I'm proposing at this point. Again, we don't know what the price of oil will be when we do it. And then I should add that we've also committed, for lack of a better word, this board has committed to, when we do the Island Road project, the 2 sections, to pave the rest of the road utilizing the same contractor, with the idea that it's going to be a lot cheaper because he's already mobilized. He's got a paving crew there and machines for those two sections, so he's gonna continue and do the rest of the work, the road, hopefully right from 73 all the way down to, well, hopefully to the end, but certainly past the co-op. And also try to fix that swale area there where the drainage problem is across from the co-op. And if we could go, and then a little bit up Rockledge Road where it's delaminated first 50, 100 feet. And then if we can go further down to McLuhan's, fine, but if we run out, we can't. But it's in pretty good shape once you get past Atwood. It's not too bad, so.
That'd be next year's budget.
Well, that's where it gets tricky because
Not this year.
we're trying to do that in this year's budget out of our reserve funds because Hager is planning on doing the Island Road project, hopefully, beginning in the middle of the May, and paving may actually start before July 1st, which is our artificial fiscal year lapse. So we're trying to balance that. But who knows, when it'll actually happen. But the Island Road project, the 40 grand that Terry mentioned, and now I'm sort of talking about reserves a little bit. And almost all of the money to pave the balance of the Island Road will come out of our reserve, but our reserve will be zeroed out. Actually, it probably isn't quite enough. If we do those two items, so. That seemed a little confusing to me. I hope I tried to explain the best I could. Questions?
Under contract services, do you know who you're getting to do those things? Is that lined up or?
I don't. I got, well, Hager certainly is doing the Island Road project. They're the ones that gave us the paving estimate, and I think we've committed to them. Well, I know we've committed to them to do the balance of the Island Road. If they do it after July 1st, it may make sense if we go with Village Road to have them do Village Road, because that's right there as well. Westbrook, I don't. I mean, I think some of the other things, Stumptown Road, Westbrook, there's really only two people in the game that I'm aware of doing paving these days, and that's Hager and Performance Paving.
Do they do the ditching and the?
Well, the ditching, I got estimates from Jimmy Callett. I'm hoping that I can get either him or Travis Wilson, or to be honest with you, in this environment, I'm hoping we can get anybody. I'm not working with. Huh? I mean, it's people are just so booked up that, but Jimmy Callett has indicated that he will at least get us the culverts done, because we need to get those on the island, or we need to get those done before we pave it. So he's sort of committed to doing that for us. So I felt lucky to get someone. So
And did you get an estimate for the bushing and limbing? Are you trying?
yeah, I got that from Tim Poppy. Yeah, and again, that's not a what they call a deep cut, back 10 feet or 8 feet. It's surgical.
Is
So you
that
don't have, I'm sorry, Bob, go ahead.
when trees come down the road like this, the one over on the island that's just been trimmed back, but it really, who does that? Is that part of this?
Well, who cuts it up out of the road?
Or is it the landowner, because it's, the one that came down just,
Yeah.
I mean, it just got trimmed, but there's so much more there that
Yeah.
really needs to be taken away.
Well, typically the fire department cuts it up, just or a CMP,
Mhm.
just enough to get it out of the road. And then depending on whether it's a state road, theoretically, the state would come along and clean it up, in with the landowner or the town.
But like on the island, it's the landowner's.
Well, I guess it
responsibility.
depends on, is it in the right of way, or,
Okay,
is it gonna get done?
So the road commissioner,
Have you talked to Calip about somebody there being a road commissioner? Because don't they do our snow?
Yeah. We
Or is that
haven't
a
had
con-
that conversation yet.
That-
Amongst the board,
Yeah.
because it is,
Would that be a conflict?
well, traditionally, that's how we've done it. But is that the right way going forward? We're not sold as the right way.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally, many towns in Maine, road commissioner was an elected position, and the reason people wanted to get elected was because they had equipment, and they could keep their equipment busy in the winter plowing the roads. And do we want to continue that route? That, I would say that's sort of the old fashioned method, as opposed to having someone who's not in the contracting business, sort of organizing things, and in a normal environment would be getting competitive bids. I haven't even informed Jeff and Walter, but Pete Coughlin, who runs the local road center at DOT, offered to come out and chat with us about what different towns are doing and all that's great. And, you know, advantages and disadvantages, because there's trade-offs, there's advantages and disadvantages of any model. Questions, more questions?
Well, this kind of goes in reserves. We've got the 156,000 in reserves. We're gonna use 40,000 for the island road, so that leaves us 116 for the reserves.
Well, that 40,000 is just for the project.
Right,
And then we got 126 we need to do the balance. of
so
the
we're
paving.
negative.
Right.
Okay,
But we're gonna, again, we're gonna try to make this work somehow or other, because it makes sense not to mobilize two different people to do one road, right? And you're gonna have joints, you know.
Walter has a question.
So
Sorry.
I'm confused because, Terry, perhaps you could go get last year's annual report. Because at the end of 2020, we voted. And it was you, Jan, and all, John.
Yeah.
To do the set aside, the removal of the Island Road 46,000 in paving and the 15,000 in emergency management, and remove it from reserves. And because we didn't want it to roll to surplus.
I think you actually created.
We created an account, there's an account.
Well,
That doesn't include this.
It doesn't, right,
It's an assigned fund balance, but
Right.
Terry's never physically moved the money from that account. That's why she put the footnote there,
so, okay.
which she doesn't have to.
She doesn't have to.
No,
as
I mean,
long
you
as-
could run this town out of one check if you wanted.
Right, I'm just, so, okay, so that's accounted for though.
The 40,000.
Is it, are we counting that in the 150,000 in reserves?
I don't follow your question.
The paving reserve includes the 40,000.
It does.
156 includes the 40,000.
Why is that?
Because she hasn't accounted.
Physically moved it to another
Hasn't
account. It's accounted for on the books, but it's physically, the cash is physically
So when
sitting.
Mindy's, wouldn't she say that the 46,000 is in that designated account? And the paving reserve is net of that? Because that's the transaction that we voted on that day. So that should be reflected in the audit.
Well, I'd have to look at that, but that's the way it should be.
The only problem is the person at the wheel. If you'll recall, nobody told Phil that that was the transaction. That's neither here nor there. I think that my suggestion is that the 46,000 at least, if not the 15, be shown as a spend item in this budget. And the reason for that is that one involved citizen essentially accused me and some others of hiding that, doing some flim plan, and I'd like to put that out in the open, where John, the other John, can see it, and so that it diffuses any issue.
Well, I don't understand the 46.
The 46 was the paving, the amount of the Island Road project. There were two components that were coming from the town. 46 and 15. 46,000 from the paving reserve, 15,000 from the emergency management reserve.
46 or 40?
I thought it was 40.
I thought it was 46.
Well, 46 is in the budget for 2020.
For 2020. And if you go look at the
Well,
other
Terry's
public
note,
safety, you
Terry's
should
note,
see a $15,000 transaction there as well.
didn't Terry's note say 40?
It did.
For
Right, yeah. We have to go back and look at that, but,
Yeah.
but whether it's 40 or 46, I would disagree with that because we've already set that aside as an assigned process, and now we've committed to this contract, and if we go back to town meeting and it's disapproved.
Right.
It's
already been
It's
approved.
already been approved, okay.
I know, that's what my point
And
is.
I would definitely not put it back in the budget.
Because it's budgeted
Yeah.
twice, too.
Yeah.
So,
Be
but
double
account
billing.
for it in the notes or something, so that it's visible. Somebody's gonna ask what happened to that.
Well, it's here, I mean, it's an assigned fund balance as opposed to an unassigned. fund balance.
Well, you and I were co-creators of that assigned fund balance.
Yeah, right. So, more questions?
Any more questions, Bob?
Not totally clear. I mean, the paving budget is significantly more. So,
It is,
if
but
my
there's no request for a reserve.
yeah, my question is, so you believe that it can be compensated from what's in the reserve to offset that?
No, just,
No,
Not in this budget.
just the reserve is gonna be chewed up by the island road, and then, and probably a little more.
so moving forward, then, this is a significant increase.
It actually is, well, it is a little bit. What we have done in the past is we either put a large chunk of money into the reserve account,
50, 60.
$50,000, $60,000, sometimes $80,000. And then the years we didn't put money into the reserve account, we spent from the reserve and budgeted for $60,000 to $80,000. So we're getting off that. This budget takes us off of that routine. Because now we're paving in 2 years using up the reserve. So next year, we're almost gonna have to put money into the reserve.
So in this year's budget, I haven't turned the page, you're not planning on putting anything in reserve?
No.
Okay, that's,
And
makes
that-
up the difference.
Well, it makes up a significant part of it. It doesn't make up the difference.
Okay, but it's a good
Yes.
portion of it.
You know, now another option, and if this was a really good year, oil price rise, and we thought it was gonna be, I would actually probably be sitting here advocating that we spend maybe twice or 3 times as much and maybe bonding it for a year or two. But I just don't think it's a good year for that, given the oil prices and stuff. But that's another way to fund this as well, you know what I mean? And certainly, I mean, a road paving project will outlive the length of a 2 or 3 year bond. So, I mean, you obviously don't want to get into borrowing where your asset's life is shorter than the debt service.
That's how the federal government.
That's fine.
And although this is a little higher level on the budgeting process, you typically do not budget from the reserve, use reserves and also put money in the reserves. You either take money out or put money in, because if you do both in your budget, you dual counted it.
Yeah, I get it.
And given the competitive environment out there and the way people's schedules are booked, I'm not even 100% sure we
You're gonna
can
spend
pull
it.
this off.
You might have to wait until the following. year.
But it would at least be in surplus. then,
Yeah.
right? We can probably get some of it.
The queue to get anything done is pretty long right now.
And it gets even a little more complicated than that because, and I don't want to belabor this, but I've also, we're planning on redoing the tennis courts, again, if we can get a bidder, and the basketball court, and the basketball court's paved. So that, the price I got is assuming that we do the fire station parking lot and the basketball court. If we don't do one or the other, there's maybe a slight adjustment there, so.
Is that scheduled now?
No, it's not scheduled, because the bid out for the tennis courts is out, but I'm not sure we're gonna get a bid.
It's a
But
special-
that doesn't mean, yeah, that's a grant we got and we've raised the money, but that doesn't mean we can't do the basketball court piece. For example. But I mean, it's just, people booked.
Yeah. Where's surplus on this? Surplus.
On what?
We don't have it yet.
budgeted? 60.
The surplus on that are you asking what's in our balance in the reserve account?
Yeah,
Okay, that's different than surplus, okay.
well, no, I'm asking surplus.
We have last year's number, but they don't have it because our year ends in June, so we usually always got it with the audit.
Is
And that's,
last year's surplus in there? Yeah.
and so last year's was like 627, I think.
But is it listed in here? I didn't see it right now.
No, we only used, used 20,000 at town meeting,
For the
and we
library.
applied 25,000 when we, huh? No, 20.
20 for the
20
library.
for the library, wasn't it?
Yep.
Oh,
And
a
then
town meeting.
25 at the
25,
commitment
yeah.
meeting, and then originally we had budgeted 60, right? Or 61, yes. So it's 20, that's 80, it's 105 we used over the last year's. Oh, I did that this weekend. There's that sheet. In my hand at the moment, But that's the amount we used last year.
So what was that's what you used out of surplus.
Yeah,
So
and we
what
had,
was surplus total? 600.
the unassigned amount was 627.
27 and a half.
Mhm.
All these numbers in different places.
To be exact, it was 627, 461.
Here's that
20
sheet.
out of that at the 20, which we didn't use. Really. So
Well, we used some of it.
607.
Well, we use more, because that's what they just said, that 25 was for commitment.
So, yeah, this sheet that I did, we ended the year with 627, 461 unassigned. In the budget itself, which Jeff was talking about, one of those opportunities, we used 60,592. Then we used 20,000 in that library amendment at the town meeting. And then the board, when they did the commitment, used another 25,000. So it was a total of 105,592, which lowered our surplus to 521,869. But Terry's and I estimate, I think conservatively, that we're going to increase that again by 212, which brings us back to 734.
Okay, that's what I
Or
was trying
some number higher than that.
But that was
And Jeff has already penciled in using,
100 grand.
It's up to 100 now. After his, there's about 26.
I just rounded a little.
yeah.
So 97.
So anyways,
Thank you.
Other questions for John concerning town roads? If no other questions, do I have a motion?
I move that we preliminarily approve town roads at 356, 794.
Is there a second? Bob seconds it. Motion for Department 610 town roads has been made and seconded for a preliminary number of 356, 794. Are there further discussion concerning the motion on the table? Sandra, do you have any questions?
No,
Okay. No further discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Sandra?
aye.
Okay, 5-0.
and there's no reserve.
I just wanted to mention that for the notes.
Yeah.
On page 40, because we're paving, there's no request. All right.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Well, yeah. Okay.
And I'll move that we set the road budget at 356, 790.
Second. Further discussion?
Yeah, I just want to say that I don't like jumping this high in the road budget, but I think this is the year we've got to. And I agree with you. I think it's going to be hit or miss whether we're. But if we try to, that is, phase all of this out over about 3 to 5 years, what the cost of paving is going to be in 2 years is anybody's guess. And I think even though it's gone up a little bit in the last few months, I still think we're at a better place than we're gonna be in a year.
So, is that okay, John?
You met,
A couple of years ago, when it was cheap, we did more paving because we
did.
wanted to be proactive
Right.
because it was much, and we thought we were getting ahead of the game by doing that.
And oil was cheap.
Yeah, and so we added more to it to pave.
given our mileage, we really don't, in my opinion, budget enough on an annual basis for road paving. I mean, we get away with a couple of roads, like Hayden Point Road doesn't get a lot of heavy trucks, so we're lucky there. I mean, it's the trucks that chew it up. That's why this road's chewed up. Island Road's chewed
Well,
up.
if we had
Westbrook.
the breakdown lane on our roads, they wouldn't get chewed up as badly. That would help.
Well, it's the weight though. I mean, when, you know,
But because you have those ditches that.
yeah, well, that's the other thing too. We haven't done a great job ditching and getting water off the road. And that doesn't help, so.
And
Or-
the shoulders.
Well, that's.
The shoulders hurt.
Shoulders,
They
yeah.
hurt, they hurt on, in the truck and like that.
Yeah.
Didn't-
Okay. So, did we vote? We did
No.
not. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Righty, town landing, Department 550, page 13. Who's presenting town landing? You get the job, Karen?
Do you want me to push on? Town landing is pretty straightforward. They used to take the float in and out very cheaply. That's a thing of the past. It's gonna cost $1,400 to take it in and out. $700 each time.
I think I did it so cheaply.
There.
There's a lot of things. It's nothing.
Yeah.
And a lot of things cheaper.
I put in 750 for repairs that might come up. 300 for, I can't read my line of drops. 300 for miscellaneous. And the porta potty is $900 for the season. And trash removal will be $265.
This is all paid for by excise tax.
So I vote excise.
Any questions for Terry? Kate?
I assume that, I don't know what miscellaneous is for, I guess that's part of the question, but I assume it's gone down because we don't have as much excise taxes coming in.
No.
No.
Because it was 1,000.
But as you can see, we don't use it for much, but once you eliminate it totally, you're gonna need it.
What is this? It's just.
Something miscellaneous that comes up, I don't, something that doesn't
Okay,
fall
I
into
still
one of
see that in
those.
the other budget. I don't
other
think I see it in
categories.
the Other budget.
It was budgeted at 500 for last year, 1,000 the previous year. So they only used 24, so they brought it down to 300, just for something.
So I know we've discussed this in the past, but when you do budget, we budgeted 500 last year, only spent 24.
Jeff's gonna
Leave
move,
that in there.
Jeff's gonna move it into surplus.
But I'm not in this case.
Because this pays
Because
the
this is
excise
excise.
tax. Everything's paid by the boat excise tax.
An example of miscellaneous might be if someone abandons the boat there and we can't, after due diligence, can't find out who it belongs to, or even if we can find out who it belongs to, they now live in California.
But we put it in there for that purpose, right? And it didn't get spent.
Right, but there's now a boat.
Like we do for the skate park every year.
Right, now there's a boat down there that, has been abandoned for quite a while and belongs to somebody in Rockland who we can't get a phone number on, and, you know, so eventually, if we hire someone to, once we could get someone to do it volunteers, go up and haul it out of there, you know, that might be a miscellaneous charge. We'll put it out by the salt shed, let it sit there for another year, see if someone claims it before.
I didn't want to take care of it.
I get the 300 right there. I'm just saying, we
Yeah.
can't carry the 500 over, make that 800. We
Well,
can't carry previous year over.
we can do anything you want.
I mean, it just seems like if it was allotted for that purpose, it should be used for that purpose. Or we should,
What's not used there goes into the
reserve for the town labor. Oh, it stays in that same.
It
In that
account.
reserve, yeah.
This goes into the reserve account for town labor.
Okay, so,
So years and years ago, the town voted to take all of our excise money and create a reserve account and put it in there. We've been putting it in there
Yes,
for
I
a
know
long
that.
time. It's quite a bit of money.
There's over 138,000 in the reserves for town landing, which will go to the next thing, but their budget is all paid from that road excise
Yeah.
tax, and what isn't used goes back into their reserve.
I do remember talking about that.
With the theory,
So I guess my question really is, John, so you're guesstimating if you needed someone to come get that vote, it's probably close to 800, not 3.
oh, no, I don't have, I just gave
I'm
an
just trying to wrap
example
my
of something.
brain around the number.
But I do think we gotta have a little discussion about repair work in a minute here, so.
Any other questions for Department 550 on town landing?
I've got a question.
Okay, Sandra?
Okay, and let me just say, I'm having trouble hearing you, so I'm missing half the discussion, so. Anyway, I was just curious about trash removal. I mean, the price is moving in the right direction, but that's pretty impressive. And does anybody know what's different?
I believe Terry's note had so much per week every Tuesday for picking up trash. It was $5
Yes,
for every Tuesday.
I hear he's gonna retire. I'm not sure what will happen then.
That's where the
I
number.
mean, the fiscal 20 actuals are 1,400 and now we're down to 260. So that's, I mean, only wish our other lines moved that way, but it was surprising.
Sandra, you can't take anything that's in the 20 actuals for actually being where they're supposed to be. That year, things got put
Look at the
randomly
actual
places.
for 21 where it says 125. Yeah, that was from January 1st to December 31st, 125.
I get it. It's just, it's not important. I just wondered if anybody knew why 2-3 years ago it was 5 times as much.
And actually, we probably didn't even have any trash removal.
Something got, apparently, it's not a clean number.
Yeah, we always used to have a carry in, carry out policy.
That's,
And then the trash,
that's an important point.
Okay.
Oh,
Trash.
Don't need to belabor it.
Up until that point, until Rolf Winters complained that the trash cans were over, and then somebody went out and did it. And then in 2021, Terry contracted with Juddy to do it for $5 a week.
and actually in 20, that is probably the cost of the trash cans that were there.
That's right. Yeah, right. Good point. We had to buy new trash.
Sorry, I slammed Owen, I shouldn't have.
Oh, you can.
can you hear us now, Sandra? Can you hear us?
It's a little better. John is the hardest to hear. He may just be in a corner.
Okay,
I'll speak up.
Thanks.
any other questions for Terry concerning Department 550, Town Landing?
Just,
Yes, go
I
ahead.
do have
Beth.
one. I'm sure we've discussed it, but the 2020 budget, the 3,000, because you have a big plan for that landing, right? That you've worked on periodically, and I know I remember him, John Gaudio, talk about it. So is that what that 3,000 town landing project means, way back in 2020?
Oh, you mean, something like that, yeah.
And is that, and is there a special little line for that?
It's been kind of lying dormant, when you say.
It died.
Well, I wouldn't say it died.
The
It's
plan-
just sort of
So
dormant.
there were 2 iterations of engineering study by Gartley Dorsey. And it's not shelfware yet, but if we don't moving along at some point, it will become shelfware, which would be unfortunate. But it
That's-
needs,
Walter, that's the one that you brought up a couple select board meetings ago and wanted us to try and look into.
yeah, it needs a champion.
Okay. It needs to be found.
What, the plan?
Yeah, Terry and Jeff have both tried to find it and have not succeeded.
Really?
I mean, it's in there somewhere, probably.
Oh, we could get one from Garland.
Right. Jan probably has. a
Yeah, it
copy.
might be easier to go back to them.
Rather than Terry spending the next 6 months of her life looking for it.
Not recommended. No, please don't.
Anyhow, that's the genesis of the 3,000.
Okay.
And that was added to an account. I mean, it wasn't just 3,000, no project, right?
No, the project never went to the point of even getting bids.
Or was that the first year it was funded, 2020?
No, it was funded, the engineering stuff was funded before that.
That's what I
Because
recall.
it was happening when I came on board, so. that
I was
goes
just
back.
curious how much money was kind of planned for that. Sure, that's quadrupled by now.
So the 3,000, wasn't that just, what was 3,000 for, do you know?
That was an add-on, that was an assumed add-on to the plan that we had, which was to bring it to some other level.
So it was for planning purposes,
Right.
not construction.
Not construction practices.
Yeah. And it never happened. Okay.
Any other questions? Do I hear a motion? Bob?
Champion.
I'll make a motion that preliminary approve the town lending budget, 3,613.
Is there a second for the motion? Deb seconds it. Motion for Department 550 Town Landing for a preliminary number of 3,615 has been made and seconded. Any further discussion concerning this budget item? All right, ready for the vote? All in favor? Sandra?
Aye.
5-0.
Okay.
And I'm going to do reserves. Sorry, page 40. So town landing, as I mentioned, had 138,429 and 8 cents, and the budget, so the amount for is 3,385, which is not the budget number.
So it wouldn't be.
No, because it's
That's her guess
Yeah.
on what's the difference
you-
between what we take in and what
What
we
they're
just
gonna be
budgeted.
there. I'm just looking.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So the number is 3,385 to be put into reserves. Any discussion concerning that? Any
No.
questions?
I'm lost. Yeah,
Page 40 for reserves.
that's what I thought.
And so town landing reserve,
Oh, I got it, okay, I'm with you.
okay, it's on line 1228.
Yeah.
3,385. And you have already in town landing reserves, just for informational purposes, 138, 429, and 8 cents.
where do you see that?
That was on the sheet that they handed out on Thursday
Right.
under reserves,
Yeah, okay.
right here. Okay. But I make it easier for myself, I put all those numbers in on the reserve page. Yeah. Yes, Bob?
So if we have that big chunk of money in there already, why are we putting more in? I mean, what am I missing?
Excise tax. It's an excise tax on.
Oh, it's required. because-
Required.
Okay.
Well, the town could unrequire it.
Yeah,
At
okay,
this
well,
point, they have
that's,
it.
that's the answer. It's right.
The money that comes in goes back to.
Got it.
So in actuality, even that's just a guess, if we collected 1,000 more than those two numbers sum, it would still go in there.
Used for that design purpose.
Mhm.
Or to buy a piece of property. But the town could repurpose it for anything. We could.
Any further discussion on town landing reserves? Do I hear a motion?
your turn.
Okay.
Ben's making the motion. Make it harder for her.
I move that we preliminarily fund the operating transfers to reserve funds for town landing reserve at 3385.
Is there a second? Off seconds. Motion has been made and seconded for reserve for town landing reserve of 3,385. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Sandra?
Aye.
Thank you. 5-0. Now to you, John.
Okay. Before I make a motion, I just wanted to give you a little update, Jeff. I know you were looking at the repair work down there. Right. And I happened to bump into Ralph Devon today. He's gone down and looked at that broken ladder and feels that it's kind of above and beyond his area of expertise. I went down and looked at it with him, and I guess I feel like we need, and maybe it'll happen out of this year's, but I think and I guess my question is, what do we have left at this point? Okay, so that, we should be able to do that. But the discussion for another day, I think we sort of figured out why that keeps getting broken. The one on the left was broken.
Are you talking about the ladder on the wall?
Yeah,
Okay.
the little handles stick out further than the pilings do. So when there's a big boat in there, the tide comes up, the boat's hitting those handles and busting on the top of the ladder. So we either maybe need to gap something on the pilings to keep the boats out for another 4 or 5 inches, or we need to recess the handles. So, but anyways,
Yeah, but
I don't think, I think we need to do it right away, and I don't think we need to affect this year's budget. That's the point of this discussion, right? I just wanted to make sure that you guys agree with that.
Yeah, I do.
When you say this year, you mean now?
I mean, the
Now,
ladder
the
is
here
really
and now.
unsafe right at the moment.
Yeah.
It's pointed off.
It should be done now.
Yeah, like yesterday.
Not because.
Correct. Right, okay.
All right. So can I move preliminary approval of the town landing budget in the amount of 3,615?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Reserve?
And I move that 3,385 be added to the reserve.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Got you, Moira?
Hey, admin, page 1, Department 510, Terry.
Yep, I gotta get my minutes up here. Well, but can you tell me your last motion for the town landing reserve?
3,385.
What would you say? I'm sorry, I'm still typing that
I
one.
said fund the, I sort of moved to fund the
Okay.
town landing
We can
reserve.
fund it a little.
You can go back and watch the tape.
Can you build it on both of them?
We did.
And they were both 3-0.
Okay, sorry, trying to.
You can, I understand. Tell us when you're ready. Okay.
Okay, the stipend is applied, 5.9% to everybody. So that makes care of salary, stipends, wages, and the benefits. There was an increase in health insurance, which I'm sure doesn't surprise anybody. Contracted services, the moderator seems to always get $100. On a side note, I know this doesn't do anything to do with the budget, but Mike Mayo cannot do our town meeting this year. He's already booked in one. Keep it on.
Now we're all gonna be happy.
When's the town meeting?
June 21st. The audit is gonna be $6,100 because it's a 18-month audit instead of the year. Of your leases set in stone pretty much. I did increase it some because I use a lot more paper than Chelsea did. I like copies of things. She put everything on the computer. Legal fees, I lowered to 5,000. That's something you guys can change if you like.
So we didn't use very much, so are you just anticipating? I know that there were issues with,
Who knows?
I know, but there was issues with planning board and some other things a few years back. And that's why it got increased. I'm just asking if,
The accountings, the software program Trio is pretty much what Trio says it's gonna be. Other software programs, I wrote down what they are. Our antivirus, our backup, our domain renewal, Microsoft licensing fees, and then password app that's gonna do two-factoring passwords. Is that the correct terminology, Walter?
It's two-factor authentication.
Oh, there we go, okay. Tech support, Gus did say he was going up on his prices about 10%. Credit card fee is what it is. Zoom is still at $14.99 a month.
can I ask about town meeting? You have the actual $790 and nothing budgeted.
That's because we are planning on having it at the school. We don't need the sound system or a porta potty.
If we can use the bottom of the school?
No, outside school.
Oh, so, oh, I'm sorry, I'm just assuming GBS.
Yeah, no,
Okay,
post office box. Rental fee has increased.
Do we have that booked in yet?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Just all of a sudden, boom, light bulb went off in my head.
Oh, mail fee increased. Printing for the town reports went up just a little bit. Advertising, I increased that because it seems like we're advertising for a lot of jobs and it's getting more expensive. Phil called and asked the cost of checks, and that's what they told us. MMA dues, that's what they said it was going to be. Mileage, put in for 1,000. Thinking that whoever, if ever we hire somebody, will actually go to classes and in person. They usually get mileage when they do that. Dues fees, memberships haven't really gone up much. Again, training is, the workshops are up because I'm hoping to be able to train someone that will really love working here and stay with us forever. Insurance, Nicole gave you the increase, I think it was 7%. Yeah, 7% increase approximately. Postage increased some. Price of the forever stamps have gone up and other stamps have gone up. Supplies they increased a little because things seem to be going up. Equipment, I put in $1,000 for 2 new desks. Lead costs, I increased some because I thought maybe we may run into running more leads and more costs. Performance awards, I just put back what they were in the kind of more normal time. Questions?
questions for Terry? Monica, do you have questions? I'm sorry, I didn't look up to see if your hand was up. No questions, Sandra?
No, I could, again, I'm sorry, I just could only hear half of what Terry said.
Did you go through
But reading through, but following along and reading the numbers, I didn't have any questions.
That's just again, I'm gonna try this one. On the legal fees for $9,000 for last year, we can't carry any of that over
Yes.
I am, that's one of the numbers I'll be including in surplus that I think we should pull from surplus.
later. So we preliminarily do this and then
Yeah.
circle back.
And just to be clear, that where the budget is sourced from, the revenue sourcing, that's a strictly select board decision. Although traditionally we have taken recommendations from the budget committee. That's kind of a nuance on it, but it is kind of important.
Can I just comment on it briefly too? We, at least my history here, we don't very often carry forward items. We do for some specific things that are like the money that was appropriated for the tennis court, for example, because it didn't happen timing wise. Oh my God, we got a project. But typically we don't. We close the surplus, and then lately, because of Jeff's philosophy, persistence, we've been funding those items where we thought we were going to spend it, but we didn't under out of surplus. So it sort of has the same effect of carrying it over because it closes it, the surplus. And I think the bad thing about what I like about that approach as to opposed to carrying forward is I've seen the towns where you end up with 40 years worth of items that are carried forward and people forget about it and there's lots of money.
Isn't that, don't we vote on that at town meeting in some respect to how the funds are used, whether they can be carried over that way or whether they can't be? I know there's closed, it's the wording that I never could quite understand that the attorney writes up, but it is supposed to be addressed, I think, somehow in that.
Oh, you're talking about open versus closed articles?
I guess.
Yeah, that's a little different. An
But
open
it has to
article,
do with funding. So,
Yeah.
so, do you understand that, Walter?
Yeah, we identify some, if not all of those funding sources in the budget, in the warrant.
In the warrant.
Yeah.
So I think that, and so you see that. And just a comment, that carryover is encumbrance. And I
It's
Think-
cleaner this way because it's
I totally agree
because
with
it's
this
coming
is,
out of
this
that
is
department,
way cleaner, and I
that
think if you're,
department and going right back into
Right back
that
into that.
department.
if you're gonna encumber, you have to have an exhaustive encumbrance policy, I think, if you want, call Rockport, because they have one.
We just started this like 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Of the matching of,
Mhm.
yeah, I
did it
to
from
me,
the
that's
budget.
like,
Mhm.
For years.
that's absolutely.
And I think the other advantage of this method is you could think something is gonna cost $1,900, so you carry that forward, it ends up costing only $1,800. So all of a sudden you got $100 in this little account that you have to spend. And you can end up with $60.
I don't think I was looking at it that way. I think
Okay.
I was looking at it as, we had $9,000 in that account last year. We only spent whatever it was,
557.
557. So,
We got 3 months to go.
so, right, but to me, you'd be safe to do 0, knowing you have 8,500.
But
No, you
don't.
gotta put in what you expect to spend.
But you can't do
Then
that.
you have
If
to
we
put.
close into surplus, you either, if you have an unexpended balance, you're either going to close it to surplus or carry it forward or put it as an assigned fund
So
balance.
Jeff's way works.
Yeah.
But that puts us in a position as the budget committee to approve it. Just knowing that.
That's what we do on the last night with after, since those are all preliminary. Is
Oh, yeah.
putting those numbers in, just to make sure that we like to be under LD1 most of the time,
Yeah.
except last year. And making sure we're being prudent about this.
All that. I just wanted to double check.
If I could just, I don't want to complicate this, but I want to make sure full transparency here. We have had some of the legal fees this year that don't show here. They were mainly related to the Island Road project and they were funded out of the money, the
The
grant
grant money?
and the money and the town's portion of it in their percentage. So just so you know, there was some of the legal costs. And, yeah, and we funded some money on it under ARP funds too, the American Rescue Plan funds related to broadband. That wasn't a great deal. Actually, neither one of them was a great deal. Right?
And also to answer part of your question, is there is an item that we vote on at town meeting that gives permission to the select board to spend money as necessary and needed. And that's also one of the votes
That's probably the one.
that you're thinking of.
No, I'll double check and see what, it's the wording. It took a long time to get through my head now.
By the time
I'll
we're here,
research that, I'll research it, I'll get back to you.
All right, further questions for Terry concerning admin department 510? Terry, you order all the supplies for all the departments, right? And then they take as necessary out of that?
Correct.
Now, your
A
motion?
motion, I move that we,
Never mind.
That was a change, that was done during Owen, which, so I just wanted to make sure it was still being done, because things aren't apples to apples, because dispatch isn't brought out to all the different departments, and supplies are not divvied out to all the departments. The admin eats the supplies.
But not all the supplies. I mean, the ambulance orders a lot of supplies. that are
Right.
related
This
to-
is
depends on
more-
what
this
the
is-
medical, so it depends on what kind of supply you're talking
This
about.
is office supply,
Yes, okay.
office, not the medical.
Okay,
Cleaning.
but I just want to make sure that people
Yeah.
understand,
Office. All right,
words mean things.
Beth,
I move that we preliminarily approve admin department 570 at 278, 735.
Department 510.
510, sorry.
Is there a second? Bob seconds. So the motion has been made and seconded for Department 510 administration for a preliminary 78, 730. Further discussion concerning the motion on the table? All in favor? Sandra? Okay, 5-0. And there is no reserve, so back to John.
Okay. Is there comments, questions? I do have one question. Go ahead.
I'll move preliminary approval of the administration budget, Department 510 of 278, 735.
Bill's insurance or in lieu of payment, is that budgeted in the health insurance?
Yes.
But it'll actually be paid out of, it's actually a taxable payment though.
Yep.
So should it be in that line?
Well, when it's paid, it's not, it's paid in payroll, so it's
Right.
taxed.
Right.
You want me to pull it
Well,
out?
I'm
put it in a
just
different
wondering if it technically should be in a benefit line, because it's really a taxable earnings. And we never ran into this before because Phil just became eligible after 5 years. You're eligible for to put your spouse on or your partner or whatever. He crossed that threshold this year, right, at January 1st. And he decided not to put his spouse or, I guess, put his spouse on the plan, and therefore he was eligible for an in lieu of payment, which actually saves the town money. But I'm just questioning, I'm not questioning just questioning where it should be, that's all.
All right,
Not the amount or the,
but I'm not sure next year he would do it the same way, so you'd still have to
Okay.
budget the health insurance.
okay. So what it's gonna result in is we're probably gonna overspend the salary line or the wage line and underspend the health insurance. But you're right, come next, he could elect to change it, and then we'd have him in the wrong place again.
Yeah,
Well, is it true for the retiree loan as well?
No, that's the point. Think about it, Terry, it doesn't affect the bottom line.
right,
Well, actually, it would a little, because it would have FICA associated with it, but
yeah.
mine, sorry. I don't mean to be picky, but, okay. All right. I lay awake and think about these things. Okay, moved and seconded, all further discussion, all those in favor? Aye.
Good job, Terry.
Yes, good job, Terry.
All right, general assistance, which is also social services department 640, it's on page 35. Terry, you're doing the 1,500?
Yep.
And is the state still repaying us 70%?
Yes. I have to say, when most people look at that application, they never come back.
I never could figure out whether that was a good or a bad thing. Someone truly needs help.
Yeah, but if they truly need help,
You'll help them.
yes, but if they truly needed help getting the things that you asked for, would be pretty easy and it would clearly show you need help.
Yeah.
If you don't really need help getting those things, you're not gonna wanna show
Well, and then you have AIO, which is also taking care of food and heat now, and they are doing it online and helping people get their heating. So they're helping two big items there. Are there questions for Terry on social services, Department 640?
Pretty straightforward.
I'd like a motion to preliminary approve social service 640 at $1,500.
Is there a second? Okay, motion has been made and seconded. Bob did it, Deb made it, second, for a preliminary 1,500. Further discussion? All right, all in favor? Sandra?
Aye.
5-0. Back to you, John.
Yep. Is there a motion?
I'll move social services preliminarily be approved at 15.
Second. Further discussion? All those in favor?
All right. Debt service, Department 670 on page 39. We don't have a lot of debt. Who's doing, Terry, you got the lucky job again?
Trying to type it fast.
Take your time. Tell us when you're ready.
Okay. I didn't budget nearly as much for the tan because our cash flow is amazing now. Got money coming in both times, all the time. So we're not gonna, I don't predict we'll be borrowing like we have in the past. I think this 2 payments
Has helped us.
has been great. We're already gonna be able to make our payment. I think Bill looked at it today and he said we'll be able to make it for the next 4 months. So, yeah, that's incredible. So I only put $1,500 in there in case while we're doing a final catch up, we need to borrow just a little bit. But I don't think we will. Wow. Yeah, it'd be good. So the ambulance repayment, this is the third repayment to the fire truck reserve account. Correct, Walter? Yep. 34,135. Interest on, which one is this? Interest on the building loan, 5,558, and the principal will be 18,948. This is the seventh payment of 15 annual payments. And the streetlight loan is $679.54 a month. It's a 5-year loan. The first payment was October 2020. And so far, we've made 18 payments as of March 2022. So in our next budget year, we'll be making $8,154 worth of payments.
Questions for Terry on debt services?
That's what it is.
We don't have a lot of debt
No.
for a town. Bob?
I'll go out of turn.
Okay.
I got Bob first now, and I never really said it.
Make a motion, preliminary approved debt services at $68,296.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, a motion has been made and seconded for Department 670 debt services for preliminary number of $68,296. Further discussion? All ready for the vote? All in favor? Sandra?
Aye.
5-0. John?
Okay. So discussion, I could actually have an item, but if someone wants to make a motion.
Move preliminary approval of debt service at 68,296.
Second.
Craig, you said we have how many payments left on the building loan?
This was a 7
Out
one.
of 15.
We have 8 left.
Yeah, 715.
And if our cash flow is so robust, I'm just wondering if we should perhaps think about paying that loan off and borrowing from ourselves, particularly the boat excise tax we really want. And paying that $5,000 in interest to ourselves and rather to a bank. It's not really so much a budget question as it is a select board question, but it's something that when we're sitting here talking about this, it bubbles up. So, but maybe we should wait a year and see how robust our cash flow really is after we do a 12-month
Yeah.
budget. But it's something that,
Yeah, because this was 18 months, so it was
Yeah.
more money.
but I mean, that's a lot of money. It could be that 5,500 over 7 or 8, 6 or 7 years that we could pay to ourselves. And we certainly have borrowed from ourselves in the past. We're doing it right now with the ambulance bill, the ambulance loan we're paying back. So. Anyway, okay. Further discussion?
We're about to incur a large debt for the fire truck.
Well, that remains to be seen.
Yeah, Not to belabor it too much, but one of the other reasons for having a fairly robust undesignated fund balance surplus is to soften the impacts of cash flow. And but as we're moving into this new process, that means that we won't need as much surplus. Is what I'm getting at, to cover cash flow. Cash flow is no longer a big reason for keeping it large.
I think the jury maybe is still out as Right, I just sort of talked myself into waiting another year. to see how that-
I don't disagree with it. I don't disagree.
All in Favor?
Aye.
All right. Recreation, and that is on page 38. And who's presenting recreation?
Oh, yes, I can.
I think we can maybe tag team it.
Okay.
You go first. Would you explain, are you gonna explain the tennis and basketball? Because we didn't do anything, and you said that was isolated someplace else, if I heard you correctly. And
Well,
you raised money for it.
yeah, we have, I don't have the details in front of me tonight, but as you know, the town raised some money a couple of years ago, and that's been put into an assigned fund balance. And we got the federal grant for like 17,000, and we raised, I think, a total of 17 with the town contribution. So anyways, the idea was to resurface the tennis court, resurface the basketball court. I'm summarizing here. Put it in a parking area in front of of course, there was a lot of handicap access. That was a condition of the grant, not a paved parking area, but just a gravel area. And move the gate or buy a new gate and put it beyond the courts, again, for access purposes. And we were all prepared to move ahead and do that. And it took forever and ever and ever for the feds to approve the grant. When they finally did, we had missed last year, last summer, if you will. So I was told that the best thing to do was kind of hang tight and put it up to bid late winter, early spring. So I did that. And when I started calling around, there's only 3 people in the game, so to speak, no pun intended, for tennis resurfacing. And 2 out of 3 of them told me they're having a wicked hard time hiring staff and they're booked for the year. One guy said he might be able to fit it in late in the fall, send them a bid package. So, and they also both told me that if you're going by the prices that we gave you back in 2019, forget it. So it's kind of up in limbo a little bit here again, the whole resurfacing of the tennis courts in particular. And we'll see if we get a bid. I talked to the guy at the state. He said, try to at least get 1 bid and then maybe you can get an additional modification to the grant to compensate for the prices. So I'm not hopeful that the tennis courts are going to get fixed this year at all. But that's kind of where it stands.
Where is that 10,000 from the grant or whatever, the 17, that between donations and the fund, the grant fund, where's that held? It's not in reserves.
No, we have that assigned fund balance. That if you look in the audit report, it's on page, I have to find it, I'm not sure I'm able to put my hands right on it. And then Terry, you have the donation money in a separate
Correct.
account, just like we have the skate park or the Fisherman's Memorial in a separate.
So we don't have a copy of that. I gotta go to the town report for that.
So it'd be in the audit report, yes. Audit. So does that answer your question?
I just think that would be a good addendum to the budget, just knowing that what from the audit, so you don't have to go to another source, that you have that information. As people change and don't know the history, because it'll get forgotten by some people.
For some reason, I seem to
I can't.
did have that printed out.
Well, we have
Showed all of the.
The amount that the town raised, the 10,000, is in the assigned fund balances on page 72 of the town report, or is that 72 of the audit report? Don't know. But anyways, and then the other amount would be yeah, I'm not sure exactly where that it is, but Terry, you have that, and you have those donations all in a separate account, correct?
Yeah.
Physically in a
They're-
separate account, correct, or no?
Not physically in something.
Okay, just accounted for separately?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're on the line.
Not online.
I guess, I don't, I see what you're saying more, but I also would want to get it, sort of, get the budget complicated by something that isn't part of the budget, so I guess there's an up and a down to that.
Mhm.
But
It's just,
There is a sheet, and I thought it was in this packet, but it's not, where you show the cemetery, not just the cemetery, the accounts that we have that are designated for specific things. The trust account.
Right, the general fund
Yeah,
report.
right, yeah. So I mean, that's available. I mean,
Yep.
yeah. We can figure that out.
That would
I think that shows all of them.
But I'm not sure that you'd find the Texaco one in here, because I think all of that activity happened after this report was finalized.
No, we funded the
Not the 10, the 10's in here.
the 10.
The donations.
And I was just gonna say, the donations probably didn't start until after that audit report was printed.
Right.
So there's no existing,
Other than Terry's rep.
other than.
Right.
and all the thank you notes. Copies of the thank you notes.
Which I feel like we gotta get a letter out explaining to people if this doesn't happen again this year.
I just was wondering on the grant, how long does that sit there for you?
2 years.
So
We're okay with the grant. It's just, it doesn't feel okay to all the people that donated, at least in my mind. But,
so when was the grant approved then? Just this
oh, we
spring,
finally
or-
got approval late in the fall, I think it was, wasn't it?
So
It
20.
Finally came through. I have that. here.
because it was voted on last year at town meeting.
No, I think it wasn't it the year before?
It was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it took forever.
Did you say that the grant was for 17 and then the
No.
town raised an additional 10 or there's 17?
Yeah, the grant was,
The grant
Hang
was 10, I thought you said.
no, it's more than that. I think it's, the grant was 17, the town put in 10, and we raised about 7. I'm pretty sure, but sorry, I wasn't prepared. But
I
I have
remember
it.
it being matching too, a matching grant. But if we don't line this up, we could potentially lose that grant. I mean,
Well, yeah, although he's very sympathetic to our plight, and this is happening everywhere, the guy at the state, I should say.
so,
This is, we're not the only people in this boat.
yeah,
So,
Sorry to get that, but for Kate's preference,
Yeah.
the grant was 20 and the town had to come up with 10, and then you have 7,000 in donations, is that what you said?
no, the grant, actually, what we're approved for was 34,180. 17,090 came from the grant, 10 came from the town, and the rest was made up of donations, and we actually might have a few $100 more than we needed for that. I'm not positive. about that. So there's 3 sources, the 10 from the town, the 17,090 from the grant, and then the balance was raised from donations, of which there were a couple significant ones. A couple of banks donated a couple grand.
but you don't have a figure on the
It's like
On the
roughly
what?
7.
donation part.
I don't have in front of me. Do you, Ted? I have, well, actually, maybe I do.
Helps me for more, for next year.
Holy, gets thicker and thicker. It would have been easy to do this without the grant. I don't have a list of.
Trying to get there.
Huh?
I'm trying to get there.
In front of me.
That's it.
basically because the town had to match.
Right, but they didn't care whether it came from the town or it came from donations, or it just couldn't come from federal. It could have come,
I think you were just under 7,000.
I'm saying roughly 7,000. Does that work?
Yep.
Okay.
yeah, it's really not even,
$7,267.
really not even, really in this budget, so to speak. Unless we come to town meeting and say, hey, we need another grand to make this work. Anybody want this job?
Tennis courts.
No, what?
Oh, speaking of which,
Okay.
Who's running?
good question.
Good question.
Who's not running?
Wow. Nobody took out papers after I had
No.
two of us approached an individual on
So it has to be a
a
right.
neighbor of yours, John.
No.
The deadline gone by?
No.
Until April 22nd.
Oh, I don't think people are gonna be storing the doors down. Okay, where are we at? We presenting?
Yep,
It's presenting, yep. And I asked about the 10,000.
Yeah.
So I interjected there. They went on a tangent, which was a good one.
So we put money in for tennis courts, nets, and some hoops. I think it's just for actually for tennis courts, nets. That's sort of a. Is it not? That's the handle we use, tennis kits, nets, and hoops. But I think the money is just for tennis court nets, which we do need.
It
Yeah.
also says basketball hoops too, $15.
Oh, does it? Okay.
yeah, so then I think Penny said, I'll have to put metal ones up, and I just never took that out of the note.
Okay, so we're not doing that. I can take it out.
You can take out the $15 if you
Yeah.
want, but the tennis court nets have probably gone up $15 since we got the budget together. But anyways, and of course, I don't know if we're even gonna put up new nets if we don't do the tennis courts. We could put the old ones up again. We got one court last year, semi-playable. Dues, fees, and travel, I don't have a clue. Is that Little League?
Little League.
Okay. Miscellaneous is, I'm not sure. You know, I guess it's miscellaneous. Mulch for the playground, that's down at Pickle Butler, but did that get donated?
Yes, Penny got some donated.
So can
Oh,
we-
she paid for it with her library donation.
Coffee money.
Okay, so can we scrap that from this, you know, or have we not communicated with her?
She told me today it was delivered. I don't know if she got it all delivered that she wants. Do you know that? I think so. That's all she wants.
We thought it looked pretty good. Okay.
Well, maybe we can scratch that.
But- Well, we need some next spring
Probably.
when you're refreshing the.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
What about the skateboard maintenance?
That's another,
Yeah.
that's a problem.
And to, I think partially solve that, not to solve it, but to address it, is you'll see that we are suggesting that we set up a reserve account for recreation.
I saw that.
We have no clue how much it's gonna cost to make the skateboard park use it,
But it needs help.
but it needs.
I went down again today, Justin down, it's getting beyond its useful
I
life.
call it dangerous. but it's
Yeah,
fun.
I would too.
And there's a half a dozen kids on it.
And they're using it, it's very popular, and I don't think we have any skateboard park expertise in this board.
Right.
Well, probably the most.
There are 11 skate light phenolic surfaces that are in need of replacement. They cost $250 a piece, but you gotta ship them from the state of Washington. Now, I have found a company in Connecticut that actually, that will charge $189. That will come here, find the materials and pay for them to stay at the 352 hotel. And I'm chasing another one in Bath.
Nice.
Yeah, they're doing concrete.
Which is the way to go.
Well,
Yeah.
Now, skateboarders are kind of split on that, the actual boarders.
No, in terms of maintenance.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But Walter, I mean, if you, I think that it's not only the surface sheets, I think the.
Oh, there's, the
superstructure underneath
superstructure is damaged and
rotting.
Well, it was all wood,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's been there a long time.
It's not pressure treated, the framing?
I think some of it is,
Yeah.
but it's just been used and the fence has fallen down and it's in rough shape. But the worst part is you're right, there's little screws sticking up.
It's quite dangerous. What is the, I mean, how should you move forward with that? It's something
I don't
needs
have.
to be done.
Yeah, and so our intention was that we set up a reserve, fund it with $5,000 and use that as the
So
beginning.
that,
of it.
so that's why there's nothing budgeted there.
Except we have no one to do it.
Right.
So what do you do on the interim when it's kind of a hazard? I mean,
That's a tough way. I mean, you shut it down, but then you're gonna.
You actually run into almost more liability shutting it down. Well, because now you have to make sure that nobody can get it and light it.
Well, they're trespassing.
Yeah.
They're doing it in the road now.
Yeah. And they're gonna use it, you shut it down.
Right. So,
you have to disassemble.
so shutting it down is an admission that is too dangerous. And so anyway, with the Maine State Tort Claims Act, the way it is, you're better off at this point, just allowing them to use it at their own risk.
And it's signed that way.
No,
No, it's not like that way,
but I don't feel comfortable with that because I find it dangerous. I mean, maybe that's a good thing to do from a legal liability point of view, but from a moral. Right.
But someone still gets hurt.
I mean, it's kind of like when you go to Clark Island, swim at your own risk.
Right.
So if you don't have a sign, then you're taking the liability.
But there's no, at Clark Island, there's no structure to maintain. It's the natural environment. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So, I mean, this is like putting up a playground behind a school and then if we inherited from the school and, you know, it really needs to be maintained and inspected and, you know, if there's no playground there.
So if you disassemble the wooden parts of it, right, demo that, then I think you have what, like, a metal piece that's kind of in the middle and right in the cement that
There's
they
a few
kind of
metal
go
pieces.
sideways.
Down there, some are loose, some are, I don't know.
But that was, I mean, that's not damaged. That's-
One was though, and I hauled it out and it's up now next to the salt shed, but one was shape, it was broken off and had sharp metal.
Oh, the thing that was in the cement.
No, it wasn't, it was a loose one. But
Yeah.
It was, it's a problem. With no easy answer.
Well, I'm just thinking the demoing part, we could probably get done. But if you demo the wooden part of it, which is gonna leave you a base, and then whatever's in the cement, right?
Yeah.
I just don't know what.
But that's gonna be a problem politically,
Yeah.
demoing it.
I just-
And there's a lot of emotion attached to it,
Yeah,
you know,
there's
it's a tough situation.
Hmm.
You sure you don't want me to?
I wanna fix this problem.
Yeah, I
tell you
know,
that,
I know.
Because,
Well, why don't, that's what we really need, is someone to shepherd it, take it on and.
Do you know the history of why it was created?
yes,
Well, just in the survey for the library community center, the skateboard and the playground is part of on the list for people because it is part of the campus. So if we're raising money for that, it's also money in that area.
I think this is more needed.
Right,
I
but,
mean, this is something that really needs to be done next.
but it is as a, included in the campus. Which is Wednesday's discussion.
But I think that having some money will help us. And I'm not sure we should put it in the reserve. I'm thinking we should put it right at the budget. Personally,
That's where it is right now.
it's in the reserve, I know. that's what might drive us to do something sooner than later. Certainly having the money will help. It won't hurt.
Maybe we could have a meeting with the founders of it and just see if we get what their feedback is. Because maybe we'd be surprised with their feedback.
That might be, that's a good suggestion.
But again, someone needs to take that on. And my glass is full.
But it would have to be set up with you, as a part of your meeting, because.
But
ultimately-
I agree, and I'm certainly willing to participate as a select board member, but someone's got to take the leadership role or to make something like this happen. Is what I'm saying.
I can make a meeting.
Well, it sounds like we're moving towards the leadership role.
I've made a meeting happen before. Do you want me to do that? Try it?
I mean, I don't know, how do you? Yeah, I'm supportive of that, I mean,
I think it's a good suggestion.
I think, but I also think it's something maybe we should do outside of a regular meeting. Maybe even on site. It'd have to be a meeting, but, yeah. Rather than sitting here, I mean, I'm willing to do that, go to a meeting, I'm willing to advocate that we put $5,000 in or $10,000.
So on-site meeting.
That's my personal feeling, but we as a board have not had that detailed level of discussion. I'm not hearing anyone objecting though.
No, well, I think the more people that go see, you know, my son was a boarder, came up here, took a bunch of pictures and sent it to some of his pals. They all said, this is a broken collarbone waiting to happen. And you won't have a long wait.
Right.
So, yeah, if you want to, I mean, we have to obviously post our meetings. But you could work that through Terry.
But I'll see if something can happen.
Yeah. But I think Pam and his name escapes me. John, he's gonna be, you know, obviously brought into the loop here.
All righty.
Yeah, thank you very much.
How do they build it? Is
The
that all
donation,
volunteer?
the donation.
So they had donations and they paid a contractor or somebody that
No, I
has
think they
expertise.
had labor was all been.
It's probably volunteer, was it?
Yeah.
I mean, they obviously bought the material. Actually, we have a few bucks in that
Yeah.
fund, don't we?
Yeah, I think that's.
$500 or $600 in there or something that was left over for maintenance, but
should be.
I
We
just
could've
had
got-
Hello?
Yeah.
Just a thought that if you did a written note about an upcoming, you'd like to have a meeting on such and such a date at the skateboard location, and hand it to the kids who skateboard and tell them to take it home to their parents. Maybe there's a parent who'd take this on.
yeah. I think there was for a while, somebody just like you're suggesting, and they moved out of town, I think. But
Sounds like an overreaction.
no, I think that was I think that was exactly sort of what that person was hoping they could do, and then other stuff happened, you know, new job or something, you know. But that'd be
There's
a great
another.
idea. But I would suggest we put, from a budget perspective, I would suggest we put more money. Because I don't think $5,000 is gonna do us what we need to do. And maybe we could attract some donations. If someone's willing to pony up, I would suggest 10. Well, I just put it, I don't care where it goes. 6, 1, half dozen the other, as long as we've got it.
So, further discussion on the 680 recreation?
Nope, you want me to move?
I'm waiting.
I'll move preliminarily to approve, Department 680 recreation for $2,020.
Is there a second? Bob seconds, okay. Motion has been made and seconded for Department 680 Recreation for preliminary approval of $2,020. Further discussion? All in favor? Sandra?
Aye.
5-0. And then on the reserve, page 40, the account that has an amount of 5,000 put in it. It's a brand new reserve. We've not had recreation reserve before. And it's line 1236.
What was the intention with that?
For the
Primarily
skateboard.
for the skate park, and then anything, and to establish that, because going forward, we're gonna have the skate park and the basketball
The
and the
playground.
Playground down
and
there.
the playground,
So general purpose.
a general.
Yeah, but in the short term, I think we were thinking, give us something to get something started on the skateboard.
Yeah, that's what initiated.
But I personally, well, budget committee have discussion, but I
Yeah.
personally would urge a motion for more money. But it's not our, that's the budget.
I would keep it at 5,000 just since it's new and we're not sure where it's going.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope to get some excitement going with like Sandra's suggestion and people who are in this arena. None of us, I mean, maybe other than Walter's son, about it. So, I mean, there might be sources to tap into there that we are not aware of. So I think we just need to really spread the word that we're in desperate need and that we have some really exciting things happening on that property that, you know, would be very beneficial. So maybe we can get some excitement going. I don't know. So I would move that we reserve that account for 5,000 for general recreation, Department 690.
For a second for the motion, Bob? Okay, motion has been made and second for line 1236 under reserves of creating a new recreational reserve with 5,000 in it. Further discussion? All in favor? Sandra? Thank you. 5-0. You, John?
Motion on the budget? Not the reserve, but
Well, I'm pondering the, put it in the budget instead of the reserve. I'm thinking reserve. All right, then I move that we add $5,000 to line 1169 skateboard maintenance and repair, bringing the total recreation to 7,020.
Second that.
the discussion.
Just so you know, that's fairly easy.
One time.
Yeah, because I think, I mean, okay, we'll end up having to do more in the future, but it's, yeah. I'm all for it.
Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Reserve?
I move that we fund the recreation reserve at $5,000 preliminary.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Back to you.
Does anyone want to change the preliminary recreation budget or leave it as is? We don't have to, but I'm just asking. And then
So
the select board have added 5,000, so there's the new budget number preliminary is 7,020. We don't have to be the same.
Right. So if the 5,000 doesn't get spent, the same move for super slow in this world.
It goes into reserve.
It goes into reserve, but not.
Sorry, into
No,
surplus.
no,
I misspoke.
But it doesn't go into the.
Unless we assign,
Yes.
carry forward.
And
That's just my concern, that it will just not be used and it will end up in this.
it'll end end up being surplus.
Surplus.
And that's one of the reasons I do it.
But it won't go necessarily into recreational, just go into the
Yeah.
general fund.
into the surplus.
I mean, I'm good with what we did.
I am too. Is there any further discussion? What we did was the select board added 5,000 to the preliminary budget. We're not changing anything, so you don't have to do it.
Yeah, I thought it was a good time, we were gonna vote on Tuesday.
All right, so the last item is a new department, Conservation Department 535 on page 8.
In terms of presentation, I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
So,
This is-
I feel-
when you're ready, yeah, I can go through. Can you hear me all right?
Yes,
Okay. So kind of shows that we're new, that we didn't really know how to fill this out, so that, for example, where all the other accounts repeat down below with space for explaining, we don't have that. So, and some of the headings, there was some confusion. Anyway, some of the headings are not quite exact. So the first line, speaker fees, that really ought to be the contract services we're thinking of. Probably we won't need any speaker fees, but we're talking about website development, and we have an annual $50 cost for a dedicated email address, which with great difficulty, they finally managed to set up for us. So that's where that money would go. So if we could, maybe Terry can tell us how we should be writing this instead, so that maybe there should be additional lines for the website. The main cost for that is going to be, we understand that it'll cost about $150 a year, the fee to keep a website, and a one-time $20 domain charge to buy a domain name. So that's $220, and there might be a little left for speaker fees.
Sandra, why aren't you using the town website?
Need a, well, sorry. We've looked into it, and it just does not fit what we want to do in terms of the services and connect links and information that we want to have on it. It's just not suited to our purposes. If you look at the websites of conservation commissions, for example, St. George, you can see how, the kind of things they do that we would like to start doing, that the town website it just doesn't fit our needs. So we would have presumably a link from the town website, but to our own website.
Sandra, is the Conservation Commission gonna do any fundraising? Is that a part of something they do or no?
I'm sorry. I heard you say, is the Conservation Commission, and then I couldn't hear the rest.
Are you planning to do any fundraising?
Well, down the road, perhaps, but we need first to get the word out that we exist. Yes, I mean, there could be fundraising. I mean, we're new. We're trying to figure out how we're going to do things. But some of the things we want to do, at least for startup, are going to cost a bit.
So you mentioned 100.
I'm sorry.
You mentioned $150 a year. I assume that's for hosting
Yes,
and
yes, that's what we've been told.
so how is somebody doing this website for free or like who's
Pretty
creating the
much,
website?
yes. Catherine Bentheim would be doing a lot of the building the website.
Okay, great.
Moving on, the next line is Maine Association of Conservation Commissions dues. That's $100 a year. We paid for it this year out of the money that had been raised by the volunteer trash collection efforts so far, but that's gone. Training and travel, it's mainly training, and there are training courses we may want to take, including grant writing, but also conservation related training. Space rental for larger programs, that can go. When we wrote this budget in January, we had not seen how the Guilford Butler School was developing. And they now have a space that would accommodate us. There had not been any that we could envision that we wouldn't have to rent. So that $100 can be deleted. The insurance, we just had a placeholder number and our number was $20. It's now dropped to 14. I have no idea how the numbers, I mean, that's basically in Terry's court, I think. But I would just point out, and I'll get down to it shortly, we will be having volunteers out on highways picking up trash. And I'm not sure, I mean, I'm assuming that the insurance is the town has insurance and you just you just spread chunks of it to different activities. And maybe it's just a number and it doesn't matter, but we are going to be having people do things where they might get hurt. You know, hopefully not. But I think $14 for insurance for that might be kind of low. On to supplies, roadside cleanup. We're planning to host 2 roadside cleanups a year. The library has previously hosted them. Penny has indicated she would be something near overjoyed to hand that job to us. We'll be needing to, she has some supplies we can have, primarily neon vests, which is great, but we're still going to need trash bags, buckets, grabbers, disposable gloves. Maybe it'll cost a little less. If so, the money goes to surplus.
Hey, Sandra,
Yes,
I've been doing the roadside cleanup with what Penny's done, and we got our bags from the town, but I didn't think there was any big other costs to roadside cleanup, and we've been doing this for 15 years.
we like, the roadside cleanup that I did with Theo before the commission was in effect. We also provided buckets so that people could be collecting recyclables separately, and grab it tools and disposable gloves for their safety. Hopefully the buckets and grabbits would all come back, but sometimes they don't all. And at least the first investment we're going to need to do that. And then the last 2 items, I think that got a little, the terms are not very helpful. It should have just been other supplies. And the key thing in that $100 is we working to get from Andrew Stanchoff some big maps where showing the trails that South Thomaston owns or controls, have them laminated and have them up in a town building. And that's about $50 a piece. So $100 would get us 2. And the other educational materials would be handouts, posters relating to the speakers program that we're trying to set up.
Sandra,
Yes.
what has your committee done since you started?
We've had a couple of people come speak to the committee on the shellfish monitoring program and on trails development. We've been working with a resident who hopefully is still going to be willing to give some parcels of land of it would be tiny little parklets to the town. A lot of our time has been spent, since most of us are new at this, is just learning the rules that apply and what's already out there that we can coordinate with among the other conservation commissions in the county, with the land trusts and so on.
Is the Conservation Committee working also with the water monitoring that's done?
They've stayed independent. That was a decision of Theo's. So they are not, I mean, we're available to support them, but we've left them, carry on as they were.
And then I have another question. Oh, you have your hand up, Kate? Okay. About these trails, because I believe the trails I know are with the Maine Heritage Coast and also then the land trust. Which trails are you saying are town owned?
Sorry. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
What trails are?
You said what trails you knew about, and I couldn't hear that.
Just answer, what trails are owned by the town?
I'm not the expert. It's not just the trails owned by the town, it's the trails within the borders of South Thomaston.
Okay, because there are other organizations, trusts that have brochures on those.
I don't know that there's any organization that has a map of all of them in South Thomaston.
They have the St. George Peninsula,
I think George is with the land trust.
and well, there's several of them. I just wondered why we were kind of doing double.
I'm not an expert on trails. I'm sorry.
Is there any more on that? Did that end?
That's, I think I've covered it all. I think what we might want to do is add space below what's in here to have put the explanations for some of these. If that made sense.
It does. Questions for Sandra?
I'm not really sure or clear what the Conservation Commission is really, what the goals are of this commission. I see, the roadside cleanup, which has been done for years, which is, awesome. And that in itself is very worthwhile, but what else is this commission? I'm not familiar with what a conservation commission is. So it's hard for me to vote on something I really don't understand.
Well, there is so much you could tackle that it's any given commission will be kind of limited by its size. We hope to be working on everything from solid waste and recycling, and whether that is being best done in the best interests of the town and the state and the environment. Working on educating townspeople and working with them on the importance of native plants and the importance of trying to get rid of invasive plants, working on water quality in the rivers and the bay. They're just examples, and also working with the schools, hopefully to get school kids involved in some of these programs and educate both educational and hands-on conservation projects. We're new. We're trying to figure out what to tackle, but what conservation commissions do is a wide range of activities relating to conservation and hopefully addressing climate change. Trouble with being new is we're still designing what we're going to be.
Okay, thank you.
I might be advanced a little bit. I would, the Conservation Commission is it's state mandated, so we voted for it at town meeting. So there is a list, we do have, under Maine state law, there's a guideline for them to some degree. So they can purchase land, but everything they do is through the select board. So even though they're not like we are, they're not advisory, they can't purchase any land, but they can seek it and they can come to the select board and see about that and try to get that approved or get them to put it on the warrant article for us to vote on at the town. So they do need money for certain things that they can do, like writing things up or I don't know necessarily like with the insurance thing and all that. I don't remember going through anything like that in Thomas thing, separate line for.
Beverly, I'm sorry. I wish I could understand what you're saying.
We try to get all our volunteers on the insurance list, correct?
But are they a volunteer though?
Sure, they're not paid. If they get hurt, they're not covered by workers' comp.
So they're not covered under the town.
No, they are as volunteers.
They
Not
are
under
volunteers,
workers'
right?
comp.
If Terry can explain it better, but we try to capture, we have purchased the MMA volunteer insurance coverage program, but in order for that, for you personally to be covered, if you volunteer for the town, Terry needs to have you, correct me if I'm wrong, on the list by name. Now, some people volunteer all over the place, so they only need to be on the list once.
Okay.
But theoretically, anybody who volunteers in the roadside cleanup, if they wanted to be covered by the town's volunteer insurance, they would need to be on that list. If they're not on that list, as I understand it, they're not covered.
Correct. Right, exactly.
So anybody who, you just need to be on the list once though. So if you also volunteer at the library, you just need to sign up once?
Well, yeah, you don't even need to sign up. Terry just needs to know, correct me if I'm wrong, Terry. You just need to know that they're volunteering for the town.
Yes. But
And
this
we
is-
also have trouble sometimes getting people off the list.
But it's
Oh.
a separate item, that's
Huh?
insurance,
Insurance is a
Insurance.
separate line,
Right.
right, every budget. Insurance is a separate line.
But this is for the Conservation Commission. That's
Right.
separate.
Right, and theoretically, for anybody they engage as volunteers
Okay,
that aren't
I'm trying to figure out before.
captured elsewhere.
There isn't a policy for the commission.
Right,
There's a blanket one for the town, and Terry divides the cost of that
Okay,
amongst
that
all the
makes sense.
departments.
Okay,
well, and if you have a,
Right.
you don't have a
I
volunteer.
get that, okay.
And what's the formula for dividing it?
$2 a person.
So it looks like at this point, she's just enlisted the 7 people that are on the commission.
Yes.
It would be up to the commission to tell her if they have additional volunteers that should be added to the list. Now, you may come in.
It says volunteer coverage. And so obviously I'm assuming that the commissioners are covered as town officials.
Only
And-
if you're
Only
not-
volunteer.
No. Just for starters, if we're town officials, aren't we under the insurance policy?
That's your $14.
Well,
All right,
it
so if
depends on what insurance it is. You would be covered under, like, for example, public officials liability insurance. If you went and did some bad no-no that you shouldn't have done, the insurance would cover you as long as you did it under the auspices of your job and so on and so forth. But that's not for personal injury if you're out picking up trash. There's different types of insurance the town has. So it appears to me that Terry has budgeted the $2 for the 7 members of the commission for the volunteer coverage here, correct?
Correct.
And if
why
there's
is that
additional-
volunteer coverage? Is the select board covered under volunteer coverage?
Hey, we're covered by workers'
We
comp,
get workers' comp.
but the planning board is, for example. But anyways, that's a long discussion that doesn't need to happen tonight at the budget committee, but.
Bob,
All right, so if we sign up a bunch of volunteers and give Terry a list, then this number would go up.
Yep. By $2 a person.
Okay.
Per year.
okay, Bob has a question.
No, I don't have a question. But what I was gonna say, since it's a brand new commission and the budget is the smallest one I've seen so far, I think we probably ought to help them out, get their legs underneath them. I'd like a motion to approve Conservation Commission at, I believe it's $709. We struck the $100 from space rental.
Right.
Sandra, so for $709 preliminary approval.
Is there a second for the motion on the table?
Yep. Second.
Motion has been made and second for new department 535 Conservation Commission for 709. Further discussion. I have further discussion because it looks like everything you're doing is what other trusts do. And I don't think you have goals here that are truly where you need to. Yes, you need insurance. Yes, you need to have the dues, but you don't have a real direction. And I guess I'm still wondering why you can't use the website that the town has, because and so I have issues there that I have problems, even though it's not a lot of money in the scheme of things. It's, and poor Sandra, I don't think you're the chair, but it's the lack of.
Certainly, no, I'm not.
I know, and so it's the lack of direction here that I have an issue with, that we want these things, but I don't see where you're coming from, that there's really clear thought. And Georges River Land Trust, the Maine Heritage Trust, they all do all these things. And I think you need to co-partner with them and find out what the needs are before you jump and want to do a website that's already stuff that's out there. That's my opinion.
So what is your thought on that then, bottom line?
I think bottom line, they need money for dues. They need money for the insurance. if we need to have money for roadside cleanup, because it used to come out of, I'm sure, the administrative cost, because Penny told us all to get bags at the town office for all these years for doing roadside cleanup, and her husband Arthur picked up everything at the end. I would think they need money for that, but I think we need to do more diligence on the website. I think it should be the town. And I think they need to do a little bit more homework on what they really want to be and decide before they have this list. And I agree with Sandra about being more explaining exact things they need. And I'm just gonna make a number up. I think it should be, we should schedule like $500 for them in the budget to get them going, some seed money, but they've got to come back with a real plan. Because they're real, and unfortunately it fell on Sandra here, because she's a member, but she's not the chair. She gets the brunt of my questions and the rest of the questions.
500 was my first thought, actually, to be honest. It's about 500 tons, and I think that was that
Yeah.
when I was on the commission, so.
Further discussion concerning the motion that's on the table for $709 for Conservation Commission? No, I'm asking if there's further discussion.
Was it seconded?
It was seconded. So the motion on the table is for $709 for Department 535 Conservation Commission. All in favor?
I'm just gonna say I'm open to amending it.
We can make another motion.
Okay.
Sorry.
Sandra, you voted
What's
for it?
happening? Yes,
You voted for 709 for the
yes,
committee?
yes.
All right. All not against it? Okay, 1 to 4, the motion fails. Is there a new motion?
Go ahead.
Okay, well, I would move to approve $500 for the Conservation Commission, Department 535.
Is there a second? Bob seconds it. There's a new motion, Sandra, on the table for Department 535 Conservation Commission to have a budget of $500 seed money to get you going. And it's been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? Bob?
Do we need to itemize it? Okay.
I'm sorry, what did Bob say?
I said, do we need to itemize it?
Well, it's gotta go somewhere,
So
right?
Oh.
You're gonna sit tomorrow and say, where do I put that?
well, I don't think it's, if the one,
I
if you want the
think
budget.
with Moira's change, it's going to have to go to, development planning or something, because she's not going to go for itemizing anything for the website. So we need another name for whatever money you're giving us to do the developmental planning she wants us to do.
Well, if you want us to itemize, then I would say $100 for the dues is a one. And I then put
At least 4.
400 in roadside cleanup supplies and leave it at that.
No, you have to put $50 for our email address. That is an ongoing expense. We have that now. We need it to function. So you have to put, so that's 150 specific.
I don't see it.
And then I
All right.
certainly don't want $400 in roadside cleanup. Is that what you were saying?
That's why I said I wasn't going to break down your budget for you. But John, to answer your
Well, no, I'm
question, the
just-
speaker fees was not speaker fees. She had to.
No,
That's
that,
for-
I already said that, that was not
Hold on,
enlightened,
Dawn.
that was not helpful. Calling it speaker fees was not helpful.
Sandra, hold on. I'm trying to explain that to John. There must be a delay, and I apologize. There was no speaker fees. It was website for $150 to host it. And then the email domain was $20 and maybe a speaker or something in the rest.
The website domain is 20 and the email is 50.
And the hosting,
So can we just call that administrative costs?
That would be fine with me.
But let's make sure it's fine with Terry.
Terry?
that's why I was gonna leave it to Terry. to
Ultimate
do.
arbiter.
I just want to make sure Terry was comfortable making those judgments.
I think I did come up with a plan if you want to hear it.
Okay,
And
we're still in discussion.
if she's comfortable with making those judgments.
But I
Go-
will tell you
go
what,
for it, Bev.
I don't know where they want their money.
I know, that's my point.
I'm kind of lost on the whole thing.
Bev?
I put exactly what I was told to put in this budget. Speaker fees is what I was told. And I know you-
No. I completely agree. Terry did exactly what she was told. There was communication problem within the Conservation Commission.
Bev, what's your suggestion?
I believe if you do $70, which covers the 50 and the 20 under where it says speaker fees, that covers their email.
I would then make sure we would say email, not speaker
Email.
fees.
I agree. And then under dues and fees, go ahead and keep that at $295. $14 for the insurance coverage, and that brings us down to $121 for supplies.
What's
That
that
work
total?
out? And that's $500.
Can you tell me, wait a second, I hit the wrong button.
Could you do that again, please?
So you hear?
Speak up, Ted. Under the name.
Okay.
Yes, I'm
And
ready. That
Kate-
is 70 or what are we calling it? Web? No, what are we calling it?
Email.
70?
Email, let's say email, $70 email, Sandra. Dues and fees stays at $295.
I'm sorry, what stays?
Well, she took 100 out.
Took 100 out.
That was for the space.
Yep, you're right, 195. We just messed up my whole system.
And make it,
So that's 195 for dues and fees.
Then insurance.
This is minus what? So that leaves 221 for the supplies. I'll call it supplies.
yes,
Yeah, just call it supplies and be done with it.
Right.
Supplies, you're saying supplies 221?
Yeah,
Okay,
And then you can spend them wherever.
and then the top is what? That's just 70?
yeah, 50 and 7 and 20, because you said that that's not. because-
70. All right, so that's, it's not going to add up quite right.
that's
70
Yeah.
plus 195
plus
plus
14.
221 is 486. If you wanted to round up to 500,
Sandra, you forgot the $14 for
oh,
insurance.
I'm sorry, you're right, you're right, you're right. Okay, got it.
Good job, Bev. Further discussion? Not hearing anything. The motion on the table that has been made and seconded for Conservation Commission, the new department 535, for a new budget total of 500, breaks down as $70 for email, 195 for dues, fees, and travel, 14 for insurance, and 221 for supplies. Ready for the vote? All in favor? Sandra? No?
Yes.
Okay, 5-0.
Okay, so I'm gonna hold this discussion based on the original request, not on the modified request. And so are there questions or comments? I have a question, but I'll let you guys go first.
Yeah, I've got two. One is our role here today and the budget committee's role was not to determine what the purpose of this committee is, this commission. That was already established. They have a charter. They are meeting and trying, all they're doing now is asking for budget and administrative costs. And I wish all of our committees were as proactive as this. Usually we have to guess at what they want, and at least they gave us something. So that's one statement, is that what it looks like is you're penalizing them $209 because because you're not sure what their purpose is, and they know what their purpose is, and we know what their purpose is. And so anyway, the other thing is, if they build a website on our website, a page on our website, is there going to be a cost associated with that? We go to another page
No,
for them, cost us nothing.
But that's not what they're talking about.
They want their
They're
own.
talking
They want
about,
their own.
they're talking about it independently hosted.
I know, and so my.
That's why he's asking the question.
That's right. So my question is, if we tell them, build your website on ours, build your page on our website, there would be no cost to that.
Correct.
Walter, questions, comments?
Well, yeah, and I think that, I'd like to hear, well, the budget committee effectively took away the funding that might have gone for that website.
Yeah, but we're holding a discussion on their request.
On their, well,
Yeah.
okay, so I have to disaggregate speaker fees again. Because that's where it is, right?
Yes. Don't call it speaking.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to hear what Catherine has in mind, because she's smart. She knows what she's doing. But I'd like her to explain it to us.
Did she know that it was up tonight?
I
To
don't know.
present?
I don't know.
Well, the agendas were posted and sent out to everybody. So we don't.
But you'd at least want a link from your webpage to their webpage, just for
Well,
you. I mean, you want to know what's happening on the
Right.
webpage.
I had a question about the website too. I mean, I'm a little, although I believe the library has a separate website. They're the only department in town that has a separate website.
But they had a website before we had a website.
And that, isn't that for the
Yeah,
interlink?
but wait a minute, hang on, I got the floor for a second, okay? So we do have a department that has a website. I've always struggled with the law philosophically of any department having a website that is not managed by, or at least overseen by the town administrator. I have a problem with that, because I do think that in this day and age, we need a gatekeeper. And to me, that gatekeeper is the town administrator. So this is the first I heard about another website coming up for another department, and I'm sort of philosophically opposed to that. I'm not opposed to a committee or a commission having a page on our website that kind of flows through the gatekeeper. But, not even from a budget point of view, from a policy point of view, I have a concern with that, personally. But I'm willing to approve the budget as is, as requested, but I would like very much to engage in a discussion with the Conservation Commission or the chair at some point about the whole idea of setting up a second department of the website. I've always envisioned us kind of pulling the libraries back at some point, not the other way around. So that's where I come. But I'm willing to approve the $809 request. I agree with Jeff. I think, $709 request. But, so is there a motion?
I'll move that we approve the Conservation Commission $700.
So
Second,
I'll second.
further discussion?
Yeah, I think Jeff has pretty much articulated this. This is a storming forming commission. They've been in existence since town meeting. So less than a year. So on the one hand, I like the $500 starter allowance, but and I wouldn't be in favor of a separate website. But I'm not willing to do anything other to their initial request than take out the $100 that is no longer necessary. So this is kind of like $709 worth of good faith.
Okay, further discussion? I intend to vote for this, but that my voting for this should not be interpreted as voting to approve another department setting up another website.
And I agree with that 100%.
So,
We hear you
All-
loud and clear.
those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we have
There was a
conflicting,
preliminary approval.
preliminary approval on conflict, we now have a conflicting amount. We had an earlier one,
Yes,
which is fine,
that's two.
which is fine.
Mhm. So that ends the budget committee's agenda. Because the select board have a couple of things.
We do.
So do I hear a motion for adjournment? Move to adjourn. 8:49, seconded by Bob. Thank you. See you tomorrow night.
Bye.
And just for your information, right now I've got an additional 46K from surplus on the departments that we look at today.
You have more than that tomorrow?
Probably ambulances there.
Yeah.
And so is trash removal. So our two biggest budgets.
With that mentioned, Walter, could you send the presentation that you guys all went to the budget committee? From
What are you talking about?
OHSDT, so they have an idea about this.
The one that,
Oh,
The one you all.
I didn't go to it, that's why.
All right.
What am I?
well,
Okay.
they all went to one. They all went to one,
It's the what, well,
but it's just the one with all the numbers on it.
February 11th,
Okay,
February 11th.
I will do that.
And then,
Okay, so the select was gonna move on to a couple of adjustment items, non-budget. One is, I think this can be dispensed with quickly. I would like to be authorized as chair to send a letter to DOT.
I feel bad about that.
Evaluate
Carolina next week.
desirability of having a reduced speed zone at the south end of the intersection of Waterman's Beach, south end, and Route 73.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion?
I think it's a great idea.
All those in favor?
Aye.
John, can you send me the
What?
motion that
Yeah,
you just made?
Sure. I'll even embellish it. No, I'm only
You spoke
Can
too
I
low and
just-
too
Can I
fast.
just interrupt real quick? Terry, have you heard from Camille for this week? She was here Thursday.
No,
Okay, because Bob's not gonna be able to come on Thursday night, so
Ooh,
we have to have her for a quorum.
she's on vacation, bro.
Sorry to interrupt.
so are you gone from here on out?
No,
Is that- no,
Thursday night.
Just Thursday
Is this Thursday? I'll be here tomorrow.
and Monday? Oh, we don't, oh, no, we don't have, we don't have.
If we had to, we did.
Definitely not.
But I leave on Tuesday morning for South
Okay,
Carolina.
so if you guys don't have a quorum tomorrow night, we'll have to push everything.
Well.
No, I'll be here tomorrow.
We'll be here tomorrow. It's Thursday night. That's why I'm gonna talk.
Well,
Final review.
Final review.
okay, well. Okay. We'll do the best we can. Okay, so, the other adjustment to the agenda was, what was it?
I just wanted to give you an update on trying to hire this.
Yeah, Did we have another adjustment though? Oh, I just briefly want to talk about schedule. With Kristen being here Wednesday night, I am thinking that we may want to adjust the agenda that night and have a brief discussion with her in executive session about a legal matter concerning the Island Road project. If we do not have a resolution by then. Just wanted to give you guys a heads up on their scheduling on that. And I was gonna email Andy to see if he might be available by phone if we needed to call him or something. So, and then Terry, you wanted to talk about a personnel matter. Should we probably should do this in executive session.
Just to,
Are you gonna mention someone's name
I won't mention her name.
or any?
I tried to reach her today to see what day should be available, and I haven't heard back from her, so.
Well, let's go and, I would prefer a motion to go into executive session. We're talking about the hiring and demotion of potential people. Because we have 3 applicants or 4. depending on the type.
I move we go into an executive session pursuant to MSRA 405. Item 6, paragraph A.
Who's gonna take this over when you?
Second, I have it written down.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Pause recording.